In this video, I will show you how to use the Fallout New Vegas Interior Builder, or FNVIB for short. So this is a tool that I made for simplifying the process of making interior cells for Fallout New Vegas. The obvious question is why, right? The GECK allows you to make interior cells. Why would someone use this additional tool? And the idea is pretty simple. So when you make a cell, at least in my experience, placing walls and furniture is pretty simple, but when you get into the clutter pass and the decorations and all the stuff, it can take a lot of time. Even with the object palette, it can take a while to kind of get everything placed correctly. So I wanted to make something that would kind of do 80% of the work for me, and then I can go in and tweak it afterwards. So again, not a 100% solution, but just something to help accelerate your workflows. So you can download the tool from Nexus Mods like we see here, and when you download it, it will look something like this. So this is our executable, and then this is the TOML file that goes with it. The TOML file basically defines all of the objects that we'll use, all of the furniture and the walls and the clutter and whatnot. So you want to make sure that this file comes along with the executable. So we'll open it up and get started. So when you open the tool, you'll have a grid, which is obviously where you'll create your room. And then the first thing you'll want to do is rename it. So we'll call this my test cell. So this is the name that you'll see in game when you go to enter the cell. And this is the name that you'll see in the GECK when you go to modify some settings for the room. So we'll just get started here. We'll create a simple little 3x3 room here, and then maybe a little hallway here, and then another 3x3 room here. Just a simple example. So the next thing you want to do is with select tool, you'll select each room to start configuring some settings. So first thing you'll generally do here is define what we call the kit, which is the kind of type of room, the walls and floor that you'll see. So let's say office, this is your default kind of gray and blue office. And then for this hallway here, we will choose the office red. This is similar kind of office kit, but with a red carpet. And then over here, we'll choose the factory setting, which is kind of a blue and blue and beige kind of color here. So a couple quick caveats: when you create a room, quote unquote, that is 1 unit wide, it will become a hallway. But not all of the kits have hallway pieces. So, for instance, if you choose I think like the Tops Casino, it has rooms, but if you try to make a hallway, there isn't actually a hallway kit in the game, so it may not come out the way you expect. Also, some of the rooms do not have all of the necessary pieces. So, for instance, if you go to the Enclave kit here and try to create like a corner door up here, I don't believe the base game has corner doors that would work there. So it would just be like a normal corner. It's just an FYI that if the room doesn't come out the way you expect, that's probably why. So set that back to the factory. All right, so going back to our first room, we defined the type of room. Now let's go through, let's say, the furniture. So let's say office furniture and maybe some of those metal shelves with stuff on them. Those are nice. And then for the floor, let's choose clutter or the junk right there. And then for walls, we can say, let's see, it's a corporate setting. So let's do corporate posters. And then lights, we can do fluorescent lights, kind of standard office stuff. So that's good. Then the hallway, obviously less stuff because it's a hallway. No furniture. We'll skip floor clutter. We can have some lights. Let's say it's walls, hospital lights. And then lastly, the factory room. So let's say this is like a break room. So we'll give this room some let's say kitchen furniture, so like a refrigerator, maybe a countertop, and then recreation, that kind of stuff. So we'll call that good there. And then floor clutter, let's say more junk, probably makes sense there. And then wall decorations, it's a break room, so let's say maybe entertainment posters. And then the lights go with the flush lights, again, just to show a few of the different things. So that's most of the room definition out of the way. Now we'll go to creating doors to connect these together. So we'll select our first room, add doorway, choose north, and then it's going to room 02. So these room IDs only really exist for this tool. You won't see them in the GECK. You won't see them in the game. It's really just a way to define in our tool here how to connect everything together. So door going north in room 2, add it. You'll see this yellow dot here. That means our door is created. And then similarly here, we'll go north to room 03, add, and then our doors are created. So that's basically it in terms of defining the room. Now you have a couple options. So you can export to a data file, kind of like the content list tumble we saw before. This will basically be a text version of the layout we've defined here. The tool today can't load that in, so we can't like reload it and edit it some more. That'll have to come in a future version. But what you can do is kind of run it in the executable tool. You can run it over again. So like in debugging, I'll define a room and then run it over and over again to make sure that, say, objects are placed correctly. So Probably not super useful for most cases, but it is available. The main thing you'll want is generate ESP. This will output a file you can open in the GECK. So we'll generate ESP. You can see it created my test cell.esp. We'll see what that looks like. So it just updated right here. We will copy that into New Vegas and see what it looks like in the GECK. All right, we've loaded our file in the GECK, and let's see what it looks like. Turn the lights on. So you can see this more or less aligns with what we defined in the tool. There's two rooms connected by hallway. We will by default place a north marker in the room. You can obviously modify that later. There is a COC marker, so you can teleport in by default and see what the room looks like. And yeah, so our first room looks more or less like we described. It is an office room. There is furniture, there's clutter. You'll see that some of the furniture has clutter associated with it. So there's a chair, there's a ham radio here. So basically, the tool will place kind of predefined clutter on the surfaces so that it looks a little more lived in. Some of the placement may be a little bit off. So you can see this is kind of hanging off the side, so we can kind of move it on the desk to make sure it looks right. But again, it kind of solves 80% of the work. There's clutter placed, you may have to tweak a little bit. Similar with the shelves, so you can see that there are, I think, three different tiers that are populated here. There's junk, there's kind of cleaning supplies, and there's cigarette cartons. But yeah, so it kind of solves a fair amount of the work there by creating this stuff for you. Then we go to the hallway. Similarly, you'll see, red carpeted hallway. There's this light. I thought I fixed this before. I'll have to update this in the next iteration. The placement there is a little bit off. And then lastly, this is our break room. So there is a pool table that can spawn in the middle as part of the recreation kit, but you can see you've got refrigerators, you've got jukeboxes. There are countertops that can spawn in the kitchen set as well. So it just kind of depends on what you choose. But the idea is these are all kind of default things that would fit in that theme. In addition to all of those things, we also create nav meshes. So again, you can see that the nav mesh does go through some of the furniture. You may need to tweak it a bit, but again, the idea is it just kind of deals with a good chunk of the work for you, so that you can spend a bit more of your time creating your mod. So in conclusion, yeah, the whole purpose with this was, like many modders, I've got a full-time job. I don't have infinite time to do this stuff, and certainly not getting paid for it. But anytime I have a few hours to do some modding, I really want to put that time to the best possible use. And a tool like this can save me a fair amount of time. So yeah, check it out at Nexus Mods, and I hope you enjoy it. Have a good one.